Pakistani American Creative Show Season 3 with Yasir. Yasir Raza. क्या हाल है?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, finally we get to do this, huh?
Yes.
For all this time you were behind the camera,
Yeah.
and now you're in front of the camera.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
A long time, yeah.
Done season 1, season 2.
This is third.
It's a nice setup. I love the studios.
Yeah. Thank you.
Excited?
Thank you. So, Rasul, as you know, as you walked in, you met with, Shaheen and Tayyaba. So the whole conversation started. How do we get to know each other? So I think a lot of audiences do not know who Yasir Raza is.
Mm-hmm.
So here's your opportunity to tell how you got into this, what inspired you. क्या अब्बू अम्मी ने मना कर दिया था? Yeah. What were those things that got Yasir Raza to where he is right now?
Yeah. I don't know how far you want me to go back or...
Oh, you can go as bad as like.
But that's always the most difficult question to answer because I have to sum up everything within like a few sentences.
Tell him, let's just start with your high school. Let's say,
Yeah.
were things there for you, or the interest started in high school, I believe?
Yeah, way before high school.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell a bit about my family, I guess.
Sure.
We start there since you talked about influences. Like no one ever in my family had a traditional job, right? Since I was growing up, bachpan se main dekh raha tha ki, my grandfather, my aunt, my uncles, my cousins, everybody was either in journalism or some sort of art or filmmaking or, just not...
Nobody was an office worker.
Nobody had a job, except my dad. He was in the bank. But that's the kind of environment I grew up in. So मुझे याद है बचपन में हम लोग जब भी छोटे खेल रहे होते थे कपड़ों में कोई ना कोई घर आया हुआ होता था either someone meeting my grandfather or my aunt would be there telling stories about her projects. So I kind of grew up in that household where people love telling stories. We would meet up people and then it's just always about
Interesting people and interesting stories.
Exactly. And I remember like all my family, aunts and uncles, their house would be full of like paintings. And as a kid, I mean, it was very normal for us to see that.
Right.
Even to an extent, like you would see nude paintings and you would not be reacting in a certain way. So you're so used to seeing all of them, right? So that's where it started. Like I did not know that I wanted to be a filmmaker at that point, but that bug, that kind of like, instinct was there. So since I was a kid, I loved telling stories. I love hearing stories. Back in the day, it was a little different. जब भी घर वाले बैठते थे कोई ना कोई होता था जो आपको कहानी सुना रहा होता था किस्से सुना रहा होता था, which I don't find it quite often.
Doesn't happen anymore.
Don't happen anymore, right? Now we're all on our phones or just talk about movies or songs and stuff like that. But so storytelling was something I was always inspired of. And I grew up in Karachi, so I moved here when I was 16 to Houston, and then everything was brand new. Like started high school. So I was just getting to know the environment around me. Everything I knew about this place was either from movies or, music or just pop culture. So when I got here, I had to really understand the culture, get to know the people, see how things work here. At that point, I didn't really know this is what I'm really going to do. But just because the place I was in, just because I had those resources, even in high school, you could go grab a camera. You can find people that had the similar interest like you do, and then just start doing things together. So it just started with like making small short films. At that point, I still remember like in my classes, like you don't have to write papers anymore. Like you can do like a video project. And it was I just found it quite easy to do. Like naturally, I could just pick up a camera and just tell a story. So yeah, that's how everything started, I guess.
Wonderful. I mean, very artsy background that you come from, and then it's a very privilege that you had you had a family जहाँ से इतने सारे art forms were oozing out of your household. So yes, tell us how do you pick your projects? How do you decide what to do? What is it that you are trying to tell the world that you selected this medium for? So what are those ideas behind?
Yeah, let me think about that one because it's a great question. And the way I've kind of set up my whole work environment around me is I work on multiple different projects for multiple different reasons. Officially, like I would say, like I work for like my full-time job is a meter purchase specialist
Right.
for like a home builder here, right? That's my full-time job. That's what pays the bills. So at that point, I'm doing all commercial work. It's all social media and a bit more.
But that also adds to your knowledge, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's in the same industry.
Exactly. So anything that has to do with your production, it's a bit more structured and organized. And then outside of that, I have BananaRoots, which is my production company, and that is just an outlet for me to tell stories, right? And then you asked about how do I pick those stories,
Right.
and it's very simple. It's what I see around me. It's the community that I see around me, people that I talk to, and that is by design, right? Like I surround myself people that I know that I can connect with and I relate with. And it's their stories that I want to tell. Honestly.
Right. But do you also believe that now technology has gone so far that now making a short film or documentary or just filming anything has now become easier too, right? Compared to 15, 20 years ago.
It's way easier. You have more resources.
Yeah.
Things are cheaper.
Yeah.
You don't need film. You don't need, you don't have to spend a lot of money.
Right.
You can do it on your phone as long as you're creative and you have the eye. Or what I tell people always is, if you have something to say, if you have something that you want to tell the world, then it's easy for you, right? You can tell that with the phone. You can, whatever your medium is, it doesn't matter. Like as long as you have something to say.
Right.
So you have to find your voice first before you look at any technology or anything else that you need or might need.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has gotten easier, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the work that's coming out is to that level.
Okay, to that level, yeah. And as things have gotten easier, but there are still challenges, right? So to tell our audiences that what kind of a challenge a independent filmmaker has to go through, what are those do's and don'ts that you want to share with people?
So I would share what I went through, which necessarily, luckily, I was kind of blessed enough that I had that circle of support around me, so I didn't struggle a whole lot. There's not a sob story. I don't have
and I was counting on something.
Right? So I don't have that sad story, unfortunately. I'm not saying that I was
That's good.
or anything.
That's good.
But as an independent filmmaker, I think one of the most key things to look out for is you need a lot of support around you, whether it's your friends, whether it's like-minded people.
Yeah.
You need to build a network around you where people can come in and help you out. For example, like when you're first starting out, let's say filmmaking, right?
Right.
Or production. Like you need to, let's say you want to be a director.
Right.
At that point, when you're first starting out, and you do everything, you do sound, you do cinematography, you're editing it yourself. You don't have the money to pay people.
Yeah, you do everything.
Struggles, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you need to find people that are willing to jump on those projects with you. Not because you're using them or anything like that.
Right.
It's just because they need to believe in your vision, and together you come up with something.
And it's also a learning experience.
It is. This field has a lot to do with people coming together and putting in their skills. Everybody has their own expertise. So if you can do anything, find someone that can do that for you.
Absolutely.
And let them do their thing.
It makes you almost like an entrepreneur, right? You are connecting people, you're connecting dots, and at the same time, you're furthering a project or a काम जो है वो चलता जा रहा है.
Yeah, just keep things moving.
Yeah. So I think it's a good segue into my next question is, so I understand that you are working on a project outside of Houston. So whatever you can share with us, tell us a little bit about that project.
Yes. So one of the biggest projects that we've been working on for like last 6 months.
Yeah.
The writing started way early.
Way early. Yeah.
We're working on a short film biography on a real person. It's a female artist from Pakistan. She started her work early 60s. I don't want to give too much.
Right.
But we went to Karachi in March and then met a lot of people from production and cinematographers, writers, and just got a team together that we really feel good about. So it's that story that we want to tell. It's one of the biggest projects that I've taken on so far, and at this point we're in pre-production phase. So if we have the locations, we have the script locked down.
Oh wow!
We're getting some funding, more funding for this project now.
Right.
And hopefully by next year, I would say March, April time, we're going to start shooting.
Wonderful. Like, wish you all the best, and anything that Kashif, myself, or anyone else can do, just feel free to ask. Yes, not a whole lot of our Pakistani American families or their kids think about these making films or being creative. I think they're all creative in many other ways, but not in the visual and performing arts.
Mm.
So what is it there that you can share with us that would encourage people to come into this field?
Yeah, I would. One suggestion I would have: don't do it for the money. Is what I'm gonna say. If I'm talking to a parent, or if I'm talking to someone who's thinking about their kid, or concerned about it. I mean, honestly, like, things had gotten better, so it's not how it used to be.
Yeah.
But what I would say is let them explore. Right? It's not necessarily where they're gonna land,
Right.
but let them just explore. Let them see if they like it, and learn from it. Right? One thing that I did, even when I was getting into this field, I think my parents realized that this is something that comes naturally to me, and I really enjoy it. But one thing that I did unique was, I didn't really just look into filmmaking and reverberation. I took history classes, I took music theory, I took sociology, psychology, not just classes, but like, I was very interested on those kind of topics and subjects, just because you never know where you're going to be using. So even if you're jumping into a film production field, doesn't necessarily mean that you're only going to be holding the camera and just filming.
Right.
You're going to be exploring different, subjects, and sometimes like hard-hitting topics. And if a kid has something to say, let them explore. Is all I'm going to say.
No, and I think you are a prime example of someone who is exploring. So I think we need to tell the audiences that you also have a podcast, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's one thing. So I talk fast, and that's just kind of how my personality is. So we do a lot of things at once, right?
Right.
We have a YouTube channel, and we do a podcast. It's a
Right.
audio-visual podcast called
Right.
Cash
Yeah.
Conversations. So do check it out.
Absolutely.
For your viewers. And the whole concept is basically it's an archival project that I started.
Yeah.
I never thought that I was going to put it out there. It was more so that I had these recordings, audio recordings, of my family and friends, and just different conversations of different topics, and I was just archiving them. And then once I started revisiting them and hearing those stories, I was like, I should share this with everybody else. So it's pretty much just like an archival place for me to drop these conversations on our channel, and then we create these visuals that go along with it, so people can follow along. And it could be a funny story, it could be spoken words poetry, it could be something from the history. So there's different things on it, and it's a very unique concept. And when you're listening to it, you don't really need context. You just jump into a conversation, and you just get the feel, and you're just almost locked into that conversation. You're not concerned about why he's saying what he's saying or what's the point behind it. It's just a fun, engaging conversation.
Yeah,
that's it.
Absolutely. And I don't think I can, finish this conversation without mentioning that you're married, and you're married to an equally creative person. So tell us how that union of you and Cindy inspires new ideas. How does she contributes to the creativity? How do you both work together? Because I think last year when I saw both of you on the set of my short film, I was like, that's match made in heaven. Right? So tell us about that beautiful relationship that you have.
I always said it, like, she's way more creative than I am, naturally, and then she's way more organized than I am. She can look into the details and really pay attention to details, while I'm just on the surface level sometimes, right? When I'm managing projects. But it just works very well. We just complement each other's weaknesses and strengths. What I'm good at, is she's equally good at that too, but there's some places where I lack, and that's where she steps in. So think of like production design, think of anything that has to do with detail, color theory or styling, those kind of things.
Absolutely.
Cindy comes in and just takes over. But outside of that, she really go to school to learn arts, and her fundamentals and background is very solid than I am. I never went to school for filmmaking. I did corporate communication.
Yeah, we just learned by doing things.
Exactly, just by doing it. But she really understands everything. So when I ask her a question, or when she asks me a question why I'm doing certain things, I have to give her an answer that makes sense. I can't just say that I like it, or it just makes sense to me. Like, I have to explain everything.
What?
But yeah, so she takes care of a lot of things that I don't have to worry about.
Zabardast. So, going on to your film outside of the US and working on that project, what is it that you want to be really known for or what's your angle on your productions and the work that you're doing?
That's a very interesting question. What would I want to be known for? Initially when I started, I wanted to be a director, right? And then that role kept changing and changing, and I was just experimenting and like, hey, what is it that I'm good at? What exactly do I can do easily or naturally, right? So cinematography, production, direction, everything. I tried everything, and then I kind of like honed in the direction aspect of it, like. And the way I approach my production is like I'm not really concerned about like what's happening out there, what genres are popular right now, or what other people are doing. Like I don't really look at that. It's just if I'm inspired by a story and I have a unique way of sharing that with everybody else, that I just get very zoned in on that. So that's how I approach it. And I just handpick people just because either they're better at what they do than I am, or they can bring something new to the table. So for example, if I hire like a sound guy or cinematographer, like I'll share my vision with them, but I trust that they're an expert. So they need to bring something to the table.
Absolutely.
And treat that project as like, okay, I'm equally invested in this project and I want to do something crazy or new with this too, right? Like I'm not just going to do what you're telling me. I'm here because I want to create something.
Right.
So that's how I approach things.
Yeah, that's a very good way of looking at things, and that's why I think that's one of the reasons why I think you and I have stayed in touch for so long is that I think your way of doing things, bringing value to the table, and then expecting the same from the others also, and I think that's a very good compliment. And I hope that there are more people from our community who pick up onto these traits and skills, so we could have a broader range of selection. Right now there are maybe 1 or 2%, but well, hopefully in the coming years we'll have more people to select from.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, it was wonderful talking to you, Yasir, and I just can't believe that our time is coming to a fast closing. But as I say that a person is a book, and we just can't finish sometimes these books in 15 minutes. So we'll definitely do another one rightfully at the time when you are back from your project. So you'll have more stories to tell us. And I think we can't wait for that episode to start.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me here. And then definitely we'll talk more.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Shardley.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.